welcome back for another edition of Beyond Dressing Well Live. I'm Mary Lou Andre, your host, and we have an enormous topic for you all tonight. How do you show up? How do you show up for yourself, your job, your family, your community, your friends, your life? And the way that I came up with this topic is we are right now enrolling for our June session of 90 Days to Stellar Style. So I have been on the phone with many of you for the last couple of weeks. And what struck me was how many people said, all of my clothes are tired. They make me feel tired. I want to feel better. I want to look better. I want to make things simple. I want to retire things that are no longer relevant to me. Don't make me feel good. I want a reset. And most of what I do when I'm on these calls is really listen. And I can usually come up with a couple of tips and strategies right away that help people feel better and start to get them headed in the right direction. But also what I love about these calls is we really have a solution. I mean, motivation only takes you so far, but we have a proven system that can save you hours. You come join us for 90 days. We're going to make this process work for you. We're going to pair you with a stylist. We're going to save you time because we have a system. We're going to hold you accountable so that when that motivation starts waning, we're going to keep you going with a proven system, proven methodology. You're going to be with a group of people, so it's fun. I find that so many people have the same issues. But when I started hearing this over and over, I came up with tonight's theme. And then I was reading, you guys know I'm a big reader, big journaler, and a quote hit me on Monday, and I said, there we go, I have tonight's show planned. Quote that I would like to share with all of you: when you start taking care of yourself, you start feeling better. You start looking better. You start attracting better. It all starts with you. And yes, how you show up matters, how you feel, how you look, how you connect. I have seen too many people, more than I can even count. It really isn't that much about the clothes once you take care of that piece. It's about how you start living your life. I talked to a woman on the phone who is a gifted artist, and she told me she hasn't attended one of her art shows in the last year because she stares looking at the abyss of her closet. She can't figure out how to get dressed, and she doesn't go. So that was the turnaround moment for me. I said, I'm going to do a mindset program. And then ironically, Karen Marinella, who is waiting in the wings, we're going to bring her out in a moment, is here. She is awesome. She has so much presence. I have known Karen for a very long time. She was one of my very first clients when she was on. She was an anchor. Those of you from the Boston area might remember Karen. I'll let her tell a little bit about her story, but she was an anchor at Channel 56, the news at 10. And as all of you know, I have been so privileged to study folks and be in a space, a very sacred space with my clients. And I really know when I see a leader, and Karen had all of that way back then. She still has it. She and I have done so much together in our careers, but I thought I had Karen coming on the show. I was looking on how to wrap up the whole message for you tonight. And it really, for me, was about showing up. So Karen and I are going to dive a little bit deeper on what is presence. And the good news is we all have a tremendous amount of control on our first and lasting impressions. And it's perfectly okay to show up one way for one audience. I know I certainly do, and show up a different way for other audiences. But it's being more mindful and remembering that the way you present yourself is tied to energy and confidence. And again, how you show up and lead your only life, you can do it with a lot more joy and vigor and intention. And I have seen so many lives literally transform by some of the principles that we teach. Is it the be all end all? No, it's a simple tool. And again, being on the phone, enrolling in our next session, which is one of our favorite times. We enroll 5 times a year. If you are interested at all, get on my calendar, get on Sarah's calendar, DM us, and we would just love to have a conversation. If the program's a fit, we're going to tell you. We have other solutions, but tonight's message is really about pushing the pause button, thinking about how you want to show up, and know that you can do it. You've got to have some motivation. But again, motivation only takes you so far. You've got to link arms with folks that can make that happen for you. And of course, our program can, but it's not just our program. It's also just, again, adopting the mindset that says, I want to do this. And I know when I start feeling better, I start attracting better, and my life becomes better. So that's what I wanted to share on the first part of our show tonight. So second, I'm going to bring Karen out, and I'm so excited to see her because we really go way back. So Maria, we've got Maria over here with us, and of course, Sarah is over in the Facebook group. But Karen, hi! Welcome!
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here with this group. I've been watching, and you're doing a fantastic job with this. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Karen. And you and I connected, I think it was last summer. We had such a great catch up. Yep. And we kept saying, we're going to get you on the show. And it just, we just haven't made it happen. So just again, I think you probably heard what I was saying. Just so delighted that we came up with this topic. And not only do we have an expert, Karen is an executive coach. She's a leadership expert. But Karen, you walk your talk, girl. You have walked it for a very long time. So before we get into kind of your background, because I think people will be really interested, what does presence mean to you personally?
Personally, it's changed over the years, I think. But I think first and foremost, when I was in television, the presence for me wasn't about just going on TV every night and doing a newscast. I felt like I needed to be present for my audience. And I guess that's true as I've evolved along the way. It's always about who I'm talking to, the audience, and the impression I want to leave. But it started really in those early days, not getting sort of caught up in the idea of being on television, but rather who am I serving? What is it, the message and the feeling I want to make sure I'm getting across to audience? And that was the real primary beginning of presence for me, really recognizing what that was and how I wanted to show up. And that's evolved over the years. I went into the corporate world. That's a different level of presence that you have to bring to the table. And then now finally, as an executive coach, how do we show up every single hour for a client? It can vary hour to hour, in terms of what that client needs. So for me, it begins with audience.
Okay. And do I remember that you were in pageants too?
Oh God, oh no.
People love this and it's so important.
Oh no.
Karen, if you don't mind, we're all girls here. This is a closed community.
Yes.
I always, and plus I've met your parents. I've been to events with them. Your parents were just so gracious and kind to me, Karen, always. And I know your mother's influence in your life was very profound. So can you share a little bit about that? Because, I have a lot of clients that are very leadership oriented. And a lot of them, one of my clients was actually a cheerleader. And she is like a business maven. But she really, certainly is part of that sport and team mentality. But she says she was taught how to sit and hold her body and carry her body. So share a little bit about your early childhood experiences with your mom and some of the role modeling, but some of the pageant, because that's not an easy thing. That's not just all dresses. That's like a serious thing.
It was a very serious thing and hard. It was a hard thing to do, to kind of put yourself out there. And I never talk about this. I think this is hysterical that I almost have forgotten about it. When I was in college, I kind of went down this route because I really, I wanted some scholarship money. Let's just face it. I was putting myself through college to be a broadcast journalist. And was working full time and found another way to add some additional income. And that's where it started. But it was, now in hindsight, as you mentioned, it really was a terrific experience to really put yourself out there, be vulnerable, be up on a stage where people are literally judging you, judging you. In hindsight, I don't know where I got the gumption to do that.
Yeah.
But when you ask about my mom, it's interesting. And again, I hadn't thought about this until tonight, but I came from pretty humble beginnings. And my parents were humble folks that lived down in the South Shore area so not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. But I remember something my mother told me at a very, very young age. And boy, won't she love this if she tunes in and sees this. But she always said to me, we might not have a lot of money, but you can always have class.
Wow.
And that always stuck with me. And what that meant to her was not just, what you were wearing and how you were wearing it, but how you show up with other people, how you feel about yourself as you started this program, and how you want to be perceived externally. And she was always authentic about it. It wasn't put on or fake or phony.
Yep.
And that's definitely what I took out of that for sure.
Yeah. And also, I think it's making other people feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
It's also part of presence.
Absolutely.
And Karen, you're one of the boy, we go way back. Eleanor Green, who I was on the Jordan Marsh team fashion.
I know.
So I'm a pageant girl too, Karen. And to your point, it was very nerve-wracking putting yourself out there on a stage, communications, leadership, early leadership training in all of these ways. But Eleanor Green was on the team fashion board, the Jordan Marsh Junior Fashion Board with me. And we stayed, and this also just talks about, I think presence is also networking and how you keep in touch with people and how you make them feel. So in the business arena, so many doors were open for me because I stayed in touch with people, and it wasn't about me. It was about an authentic, the word authenticity gets so thrown around, but for me, it's like those authentic connections. And when I started my business, I was I was very young. We're sending out the newsletter, and Eleanor gave it to you or I think it was your news director who called me. And that was a big deal. I was scared to death. I was about 28 years old. And here I am going to Karen Marinella's house.
And thank God you did.
Yeah, about your mom, you always made me feel welcome, and you made me feel really good about my work. And I'm just, here we are again, Karen. So tell folks, because everybody, this is a sharing program. People love the backstory. And before we get into some of the, the tips on executive presence and how to show up and what you see in the trenches and where you see clients using it to their advantage, and when you see it, oh boy, I wish they just had a little bit more. Tell people your story. So you go to Emerson College, I think, right?
Yes, I did.
And then take it away. Tell us your story.
I applied to one college. I don't know what plan B was. I applied to one.
I love it.
Thank God they took me, because I don't know what I was going to do otherwise. But I went to Emerson and worked full time. I was working for a radio station in Plymouth, WPLM, which folks see on their way to Cape Cod, I think, and up on the hill if you're in the Boston area. And, to your point, it's a networking game. So pretty early on in my career, I was blessed. I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere, but the folks at that radio station were very well connected, and one thing leads to another. And pretty soon, someone in Chatham who knows Jack Hines. Jack Hines was the legendary news broadcaster in Boston for many, many, many years, and my first Boston co-anchor, a true gentleman in every sense of the word. Takes my tape, someone knows him, gives him my videotape of my first reel, my first anchor reel, audition reel, brings it into a news director in Boston and says, take a look at this. And I'm in early stage career. And that news director got in touch with me, said he saw some talent here. These are some things to work on. Stay in touch. I stayed in touch. And over a period of, I want to say 2 years-ish, he hired me.
And that was Channel 56.
Channel 56. It's crazy.
And how long were you there?
I'm starting to lie about that. So
Me too. Me too.
I was there almost 20 years,
I
and
thought so.
my whole broadcast career was about 25 years
Wow,
total. I spent a
Karen,
year up
what
in
a life.
Maine, where I worked as an anchor there as well, and reporter, and I'd spent some time on the Cape as an anchor too, but about
Oh, you
25
did.
years in
Okay.
total.
Wow. So I knew you through that whole journey. And I just always loved that you had that one newscast. We did oh my goodness. And you were with the legend, Jack, my goodness. And
Yeah.
Frank Malacote, I remember. And then I had to ask Jeff Barnes.
Jeff Barnes, don't forget Jeff.
Favorite part of the job?
Without doubt. I mean, without even missing a beat, the people. I'm telling you, and just as you're describing it, there's no doubt, especially now in hindsight, it was such a special group of people. You know, we're the 10 o'clock news. Eventually Fox came on with the 10, but for a long time it was just us at 10.
It was.
And we were going up against the big guys, you know, channel 4, 5, and 7. But we had a spirited team of people in front of the camera, behind the camera, a special moment in time at a special place with incredibly special people. And that's what I miss. It was unusual. We knew it was special then, but now clearly it was very, very special. That's what I miss.
Yeah. So, you know, you and I worked together for a long time, and, you know, fashion shows, you were there. I mean, our book signing. And then what I really admired about you, Karen, when that moment in time was over, after a 25-year run, which is incredible, you said, I'm going to recreate myself.
Well, necessity is another invention here. Let's be real.
So next chapter, what did you do? How did you take the skills that you had and repackage them? Because that's also showing up, girl. That's like not going home and like, I got my toys and I'm going home. That's like, I'm going to take my toolkit and mix it up and create something new. So tell us what happened next.
You know, first thing was creating that, I call it the kitchen cabinet. I spent a lot of time really trying to understand what could happen next. I'm a realist. At that point, I was a single mom. I wasn't a single, I just was recently remarried, but I had 3 children who I knew I had to get through college at one point. So I knew I had to go make some money doing something. And I'm a realist. And when you hit a certain age in television, historically, you know, it might be time to move on. You can't always have a long career in it. And I knew I needed to you know, really provide for these children and get them into college as well. And so I talked to lots of folks and said, what can happen here? And what could I do? And what would you recommend? And who should I talk to? The network. I got the network going. And everyone had great, wonderful ideas, were generous with their time and thoughts. And I eventually found my way to a company in Billerica. The CEO of that company, I remember the hiring manager telling me, you know what? The CEO wants us to find something different. He doesn't want someone out of a PR agency or, you know, traditional run-of-the-mill PR work. He wants someone different with a different perspective. And that was me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really different. And I got to work with him. And that was the beginning of this coaching journey. Who knew? But working with him and other senior executives, I came to realize that all of those skills from my time in broadcast journalism really applied to and could help executives figure out how to show up. And this particular CEO, and all of the other leaders at that place I was working with, these are brilliant people, brilliant people with enormous educational pedigree, never mind the subject matter expertise and technical knowledge. But some of these skills don't come naturally. And the communication, the presence, the showing up, how to articulate a message, how to lead a team, how to inspire or motivate a team. These things don't always come naturally. And as I started coaching him just on broadcast journalism and how to kind of, you know, deliver his message, it became clear that there was more needed in terms of coaching. And boy, I loved it. I loved every second of it.
And that was Millipore. Yeah.
That was Millipore. And I was really able to grow there and really able to try some new things. That particular CEO inspired and fostered a culture of innovation. I would often hear things like, if you have an idea and you want to do something, go do it. And that just doesn't happen. Another special moment in time. And I just loved it, took advantage of it, traveled the world. I mean, it was a life changer, really was. So
And I think you
long
got
answer
your
to your
master's
question.
too. Didn't you go back and get your master's?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, and not at their with their encouragement as
Yeah.
well. Really encouraged me to continue to grow. I think I really loved what was happening in the corporate world. Felt like I found a new place to land and loved it, and it was encouraged, and they definitely supported that whole effort.
Okay. So now let's kind of dive into go back into executive presence,
Mm,
because I don't think it's just, I like to call it presence, because there's
yeah.
so many people on the show that are moms and community
Yep.
leaders, and they work, but work, as you know, I think the pandemic, work no longer defines us the way that it
Right.
once did. It just doesn't. So what, and we've certainly seen a transition with our clients as well, in terms of wardrobe and options, and
Oh,
people really wanting to have fun, people wanting to dress up again. So in your current role, when somebody, and I agree, Karen and I have shared many clients, we have worked together. Now we have we've been in situations where we've actually shared clients, and it's been referrals. And I love when an executive, we have a lot of executive coaches that refer business, because what we often do with our methodology is, we again have a methodology. We take them, we meet them where they are, and we walk them through a process. And I love when I can give them back to their coach, like Karen, because a lot of times, and back to our theme of showing up, they show up different
yeah.
because they feel different. The feedback that we often get is they take a different seat at the table. They are calmer when they're doing their presentation. They're ready for a deeper dive into communication and messaging, and owning their power differently. So tell us, Karen, like when you, because you have referred a lot of clients to us, like
Still do.
what's that sign of, wow, if they could just feel better. And again, our stuff, people on the show know that we're not phony baloney. We're very authentic, and we really honor who the person is. We're really about refinement and knowing in our core that we're producing energy and confidence and communication. So what do you see when somebody needs that little tap on the shoulder? This additional executive presence work could really help you shine and be more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah, it's obvious almost immediately. You can see it.
Wow. Okay.
I had a call this morning with a gentleman who, again, current client, and wow, showed up in a t-shirt, just wasn't ready for our call today. And I knew instantly that this was an area we have to work on, because the feedback he was getting, and it was a feedback call today, the feedback he was getting was, yeah, brilliant work, but are you really ready for the next step in your career, really? And no one could quite put a finger on it. And the second he showed up on the screen, I know exactly what was going on. So you can tell almost right away. It can be any number of things, from just physical appearance to just overall energy as well. Are you projecting the right energy? Are you showing up in a way that shows you're engaged? When you're not engaged, that shows up too. So there are so many different things that I look for, but boy, I can spot it a mile away at this point. I don't know if it's all the experience, all those years, or
Oh, well, you've got good emotional intelligence too. So Karen, what are some of the mistakes you're seeing on Zoom? That's one.
huge.
Yeah. What else are you seeing on Zoom?
Huge Zoom mistakes right now. So I started my business sort of just before the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, I thought, oh gosh, here we go, time to find another career. And sure enough, folks almost all of a sudden found themselves on the other side of this camera and didn't know what to do here. So they were challenged with, building relationships. How do you, have influence through a camera lens, et cetera. And I got to tell you, I was busier than I ever imagined I would be through this entire pandemic, with folks, even ministers, reaching out saying, how do I deliver a church
Oh, that's
service here?
interesting. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That.
so folks were really challenged with this.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things I see that drive me crazy, and I fix them almost right away, is, first of all, your framing. How are you showing up?
Yeah.
Just right away, first turn on the camera, please. When we don't turn on the camera, you have no chance of connecting with your audience and building that relationship, building your credibility. Trust has to come through this camera. You got to turn it on. That's the first thing, I think. The second thing was just overall framing, lighting, microphone, basic technology things. Do you have good Wi-Fi? Really kind of focusing in on that. And when I talk about framing, and I really worked particularly with women on this, it seemed to be mostly women. This was what I was seeing a lot. You'll forgive. I was seeing a lot of this.
Yep.
And look how small I am compared to you.
Yeah.
Really. And I would say to these women, I still do, is that how you want to show up? You're way in the background here, and look at everyone else on the screen. You need to own this space. This is your space, your time. Use your hands, use your body, be engaged here. Don't be hiding in the background back here. So that was a big one. In the early days, it was cats.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of cat issues.
Oh, I have a good story on that hat too. Oh, wow.
Did you see cats kind of crawling across the screen here? And I thought, oh my gosh, please put the cat away. So things like that. Yeah. And then general dress. So there was a shift. Everyone thought, particularly in the early days, that you could, just wear your sweatpants, put your hair in a bun, and just not have any makeup and come on if you're going to turn on your camera. And in the early days too, I wondered what we should look like. And then I felt lousy when I wasn't kind of pulling myself together every day. And I think that was a big piece too, that I would focus on with folks. Really show up. You don't have to be in full wardrobe makeup, but at least look professional. So I had a lot of my women, and I didn't even talk to you about this, so I probably should have reached out to you and had you come in. But I, pick up some really nice quality cardigans that kind of give you that. I'm still doing the V. Mary Lou taught me this back in TV. We want the attention here. And I taught that over and over and over again, even with my men too. And I did have one Mary Lou moment where I banned camo. There was I had a senior leader who showed up consistently, I guess, because I was hearing this in his feedback. And when he showed up for our feedback call, he was wearing a camo vest.
Oh,
and I said, that's it. Banned for life.
You know what I love about this conversation, though, is that we all have so much control over it.
Yes.
All it takes is a little planning. So, yes. I mean, with me and my team, we do meetings, and we will definitely call it out and say no makeup meeting, But just being prepared with, I always have 5 Zoom tops at the ready.
Right.
So at the ready that I can do. I have makeup at my desk. I have a mirror at my desk. I have my hoop earrings at my desk. And, we've all done it. And I swear, Karen, the few times I've let my guard down are the times that it mattered. And I could just kick myself. There was a couple times, middle of the pandemic, late on a Friday afternoon. I mean, I had an executive from Dow Chemical, and it was Friday afternoon, deep in the recession. And he showed up to meet me. Here I am with a shirt and tie. And I didn't match that. And, talk about your confidence, especially in the work that I do. And I try to put everybody at ease. I was just mortified. And that goes to the point of, why is this important? When you feel respectful about yourself, you instantly show respect to other people, and your connections and your energy. It's just better. And I agree with you, Karen. It doesn't mean you have to be dressed to the nines, but it's mostly about respect. And I love what you said about the cardigans, even like what you have on. It's called color blocking. I mean, I've done it for years. Just having a solid color as women, it shrinks the eye in, brings the eye up. And I heard another client say to me, I have a client that's like 5 feet tall. And she said, I love Zoom. It's the great equalizer. I show up as big as the men because I take the time to have my lighting. And to Karen's point, when you're shimmied down in the back, you look small. And when you just sit and you take the time to set up the camera, you look you're just at an equal place at the table. So absolutely. And now what I'm seeing is people trying to figure out how to do it in person again. They don't. Yes. Yeah. And what are you seeing? We've got a couple more minutes. 1 or 2 tips on where do you see people struggle in person right now?
Well, now the struggle going back is how to reestablish. So folks who thrived well on Zoom tended to be kind of quieter types of folks, and to your point, found themselves now having a seat at the table. They're intimidated by going back in person again. They're back to that challenge of how do I have that voice? How do I project as large as I am here? So that's what I'm seeing a lot right now. Yeah,
And wouldn't you say it goes back to preparation, Karen?
always.
Doesn't it goes back to an awareness and having the tools to put together your best self before that meeting? That's what always amazes me, and what we're most proud of in our work is that everything, I mean, Karen's job is harder. I mean, somebody writing and presenting a message, a verbal message, it's so much easier when you take the time on the packaging and
Always.
you feel like you're already 80% there. So, Karen, I could talk to you all night. Will you come back? We're having you back. It's so fun. And one quickie before we leave. Best outfit or best piece I ever bought you, or favorite piece we ever picked out together.
I have a necklace still that you bought me. It's a silver necklace that has a like a knot in the
Oh, I
middle.
know that necklace. Yeah. That was from Oku. That was from Oku, downtown
Still have
Boston.
it. Still have it. Love it.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, I hope we hit our mark. As you know, we always try to give everybody at least 2 or 3 ideas that they can use immediately. And thank you guys for showing up, because when you show up, we show up, and we'll be back again next week. Next week, we're going to be at Top It Off back at the awesome. Do you know about this place, Karen? You should. We go in West Roxbury. It's an accessories that they're actually quite large, woman-owned business. They sell to all the boutiques. So we're going to go in and talk to our buddies over there and give you all some great ideas for summer accessories. So that's next week. But Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marinella. Good luck.
Please go in and read the comments and answer people, because I see a lot coming in for you. Any questions for Karen, leave it in the chat. She can go and pop in and answer when she has some time. So thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you again next week. See you later. Bye.